having a very interesting day. My car's transmission box thing is messed up, so I gotta figure out how I'm gonna scrounge up $1,600. Not excited about this. It's an old car too, so it's one of those things where it's like, is it worth it? Is it worth it? My mother-in-law brought up a good point where she's like, well, it is cheaper than buying a new car. So I'm at that weird crossroads right now on what to do. I can still get around via the metro in DC and on a bike and all that stuff to get everywhere I need to go, but I have to suddenly decide what I'm going to do sometime today, because I got to order the part and then they fix it and do the whole thing. So it's not like a instant yes, go for it, it'll get done today situation. I still got to figure out everything tomorrow. It's wild. It's been a wild week. I have mostly been kind of working on. Pull this up. I have mostly been kind of working on the sketchbook. I just finished it yesterday. I wanted to do kind of a throwback feel for it. I haven't done one of these for a long time, so give me a break on all the little things that may or may not be great or not great about it. I don't know. I feel good about it though. I feel like it's definitely coming together really well, and that I don't know, that I'm in the right realm of ideas that I want to do, and I know what I'm going to do next. So that's kind of a big thing. This way I can see what your comments are as you say snarky little things to me. So yeah, it's good though. It's good. I'm mostly just trying to figure out how I'm going to do everything. I don't know. I don't know. But I got my breakfast, so there's that. Nice matcha tea. I'm trying to get away from. I'm trying to get away from coffee. It doesn't do me any good. This is what I'm eating, by the way. Ooh, I know, right? So these are Impossible meat with. I love how this is not easy to do. I thought this would be really easy to eat. It is not. So they work almost like tacos. So it's Impossible meat. Sweet peppers. Impossible meat, sweet peppers, red onions, seasoning, of course, and habaneros. So, it is a good time to be alive. And if you forget that you are, eat something spicy and wake up. That does hit, though. It hits really well. Especially on a day like today. It's a little damp, a little rainy. Hey, how's it going? Hi, Mary. So yeah, I'm kind of just feeling it out today, seeing what we're gonna do. Because I don't really know. I don't really know what's gonna happen as far as the whole car situation's going. I'm okay. My car broke down, so I'm a little trying to figure out what I'm gonna do next couple of days. Like I have a way to get around, so that's not a problem there. But it's just it wasn't what I wanted to get into. From Russia. You from Russia? Me? No. I think you might be from Russia. It looks like you've got some Cyrillic going on in that name. That's kind of interesting. My wife's family partially comes from Russia. So we eat a lot of different types of foods. It's a very kind of diverse household. We've got Brazilians, Caribbeans, Latin Americans, and then we also have Ethiopians. We have, I don't know what that means. I don't know. I don't know what that means. I'm sorry, I don't read Cyrillic, so I don't know what that means. Um, and then we've got Ethiopians and Russian, Italian, Jewish people with a little with a smidgen of Irish in there. My wife's side. So she's got a lot. She's got a lot going on. We both do. The good thing about the whole car thing, there's not a lot of good things, but the good thing about the whole car thing is I need to get more exercise anyways. So I'll be walking a lot more and riding my bike, which is good. I am 43 now. I had my birthday last Tuesday. So I have to take care of me as it goes. But for those who don't know me, I am the painter of Painter's Breakfast. My name is Jaws Blake. Hello. I've been a painter for over 40 years. If you would like to get an idea of what I do, there you go. Something like that. That thing behind me. And then, of course, got the magic sketchbook that I just finished that I'm really excited to show you. Thank you. Look good. Enjoy. Thank you so much. I feel happy about it. So, yeah, I'm just working on all these things. I'm always working on lots of things. So, it's kind of how it all goes, you know? In my life, I've traveled to some interesting places. Latin America, traveled to Europe, mostly England and France. I'd gone one time to Japan, just once. It was really interesting. It was a work trip, so I didn't really get to do too much, but it was nice. And then, what else did I do? Mostly the Caribbean, though. Mostly Caribbean, South America is where I've primarily been most of my life. And I really love the food, you know? And so when I think of my family and how they make stuff, they were always they were very powerful in their flavors, you know? So when I cook, when I paint, when I do whatever, I always try and be that, you know? To put that same kind of zest into my artwork that I hope I do. I've done a few art books, I've done a lot of prints. I primarily do a lot of paintings. And I practice quite a bit in what I do. I think that's kind of a really big deal that if you have a passion about what you do, you have to kind of study it a bit to really get your grips on it, get your mitts into it, as it were. Hold it tight and run with it. So that's kind of my big thing right now. I'm trying to do that, trying to figure out all these things. It is coming together, but it's one of those things where you're not really guaranteed every day, all the time, that everything's going to be perfect. I figure the flexibility of not knowing and learning to just kind of go with it. A big chunk of habanero just now. We'll see how that goes. I'm feeling my eyes. Beautiful. A painter I studied under when I was in high school, who was a college professor, told me that your plate should be colorful when you eat, and it should have the same energy. You should put that same energy that you enjoy your food into how you enjoy your art. Your art. I know I swallow words sometimes. Is anybody else into matcha? I'm really into matcha. I've been into it for a couple years. It's been really good, particularly with my diabetes and everything. You? That's cool. How do you do your matcha? I make like I do like the traditional way. I put it in a bowl, I stir it with hot water, and then I take like a cream of sorts. So for me, I do like non-lactose milk. Because I am lactose intolerant, but I am also diabetic, so I cannot do as much as I like oat milk. I can't do oat milk. It's not good for me. This is so good. This is probably one of the better things I've made in a while. Actually, I'm very proud of this. I have a friend who constantly always tells me, he's like, you know that veggie meat stuff's not good for you. It's not healthy. And I'm just like, yeah, I'm aware. I didn't eat it because it's healthy. I eat it because I have a protein issue. So I found out in college that I did not break down meat proteins very well. I started getting these like stomach ulcers, and I started breaking out in rashes and stuff like that. And it took me a while to figure that out, actually. I hadn't really eaten a lot of meat growing up as a kid. I had tried stuff like burgers and hot dogs and stuff like that, but I I hadn't steadily really eaten any of that stuff most of my life. So I got to college, met a girl, talked me eating chicken wings. I had those; they were delicious. But I slowly started to realize later in the day to the next day, I would just feel all this like just uncomfortableness in my stomach and my limbs. I'd get sick very often. I'd get sick like all the time. I think I just walked around with like pneumonia for like a year, basically. It was not a good idea. I don't recommend it. For those who do, as I have gotten older, what I have learned is you are doing no one you work with a favor going into work when you're really sick. And I remember because I worked for a place that used to make me feel very guilty whenever I would call out. They call me like 10 to 12 times, probably in a day, to go like, hey, so you coming in later? And you're like, no, I'm so sick. Leave me alone. I'm trying to sleep to feel better so I can come in tomorrow. I'm like, okay, cool. I hear you. 20 minutes to 2 hours later. Hey, so any chance you're going to be in today? And you're like, no, leave me alone. I just want to go home. I just want to stay in bed. I don't even want to answer my phone. And yeah, I lived alone at the time and the whole thing. And I slowly started to realize I was like, I have to do these things to try and make myself feel better. So that's when I learned I had cracked my sternum. I had pneumonia, and I had coughed so hard I cracked my sternum. And so that was the whole thing that I had to get fixed. and it was painful and it was difficult. It was all these things. But as soon as I started taking care of myself, I realized that I was able to paint longer and just kind of become the artist that I had always been trying to do for the last 20 or so odd years. I'm 43. I have been a painter for a solid 40 years at least at this point. And it's just interesting. It's interesting to see how I learned how to become a better painter, how I learned how to do all these things and be the stuff and etc. And it's kind of one of those things you just have to do. You learn what works best for you to feel inspired. I like to read books. I'm a big book reader. I'm currently reading the first Dune book, also Arthur Nissen, Unlubricated. You heard that right. Um, and I'm also reading the biography of Ashata Shakur, who was a civil rights leader in the 1960s. So, who's been exiled to Cuba for the last 30 years or 40 years. I'm not really sure. I gotta look at the math. But I read all these things and then it kind of clicks in my brain and I'm able to visualize fully the paintings and the painting structures. I also sketch things down. I think one of the bigger things that like a lot of artists get into the habit of thinking about is like, how do you keep track of all the ideas in your head all at once? What I used to do is I'd work on like 5 or 6 paintings at a time. I felt like I was going crazy a little bit, so I stopped doing that. I still work on a couple at a time, but not that many. It's just too much. So this is my recently finished sketchbook, front and back. So I've shown you little bits and pieces of this before, but I don't think I've ever given you like a real tour. So a few years ago, I was rereading Moby Dick because I just felt like I saw this really great Moby Dick book that was like fully illustrated and well, not fully illustrated. It was illustrated as far as like the front cover and it had like little accent marks and stuff for like anchors and etc. And I started just kind of drawing in the liner notes while I was reading it. And so I started drawing little things that go like that. And then I started studying honeybees. I thought they were just really interesting and kind of a little fascinating. So I made some art that went in that direction. And then I just started just going with these wild little illustrations and little textures and I think I didn't like this and so I just drew over it. Sometimes you gotta do that. Sometimes you gotta just go and be and make a mess and be proud of the messes that you make. Art is about being messy oftentimes. Thankfully, my biggest fear as an artist is running out of things to draw in or paint on. Thankfully, I thought ahead this time, and I did a bunch of stuff before that. So I have a new sketchbook that I have to start and decorate soon. But I'm giving myself like a day or so. I think it's good to take breaks in between paintings. I think when you just hop on one painting and then hop to the next painting over and over and over again, you just kind of burn out. There was one year, I think I did around like 300 paintings. And it just became kind of a level of madness that took over at certain points. Yes, I like crows. Um, so I had this really great art teacher, Elizabeth Spotswood, who is still a living artist. You can look her up. She's very talented. She does a lot of like sculptures and paints them and stuff. She takes found objects and changes them and does these things. I can't even imagine how she actually does the cool things she does, but she does. And she used to always tell me and all the other students in her class that in art school that we needed to make sure we worked on textures and textiles. Like it was really important to her. And as the years went by, it became really important to me also to just make so much art. and always focus on textures and line work and etc. And as time went by, I learned to be a lot more forgiving of myself. And once I learned how to do that, that's when my style emerged. And my sketch style is not the same as my painting style, nor is the same as my different media painting styles to an extent. Sometimes when I draw stuff that I don't like, I'll go over it with a Posca and then I'll draw on top of it. Sometimes I don't even do that. Sometimes I just make marks and then I come back to them and draw them and paint them and do all this crazy stuff. It's just it's important to me, you know? It's really, really, really important to me. And sometimes I even use a sketchbook actually for doing sketches, for ideas on artwork that I'm going to do. Like this is a piece that I'm trying to do a mold for. I sculpted out of clay and I'm going to do a mold for, and then I'm going to make into a piggy bank. And then I'm going to sell them. Because I wanted to have some type of cool toy type of thing that I could do. So I'm going to do some wax ones and I'm going to carve. I used to have this really old piggy bank from Mexico City that my mom got for me, and it was a burro, or a donkey, as some of you know. And in that, tell me if you want me to stop to show you something. Tell me, by the way. And I remember it because it was so vividly like this cool thing for me. So this is what it looks like in a bigger version, with all the little tiny sketches that I did. And my finger's in the way. And in that, I would constantly I was a child, so like you chip and you break and you do stuff like that. So I think like I broke his leg off one time, and she super glued his leg back on, which I don't think really probably worked with clay, with dried clay, but it kind of worked. It wasn't fired or anything, and or it was fired, but it wasn't glossed. And it was just kind of one of those things that's always been really amazing. I've always wanted to go to Mexico City, and I've never taken the opportunity to do so. One of my best friends, Jenna has gone. Jenna loved it. She thought it was incredible. And I've always wanted to go back. I speak English, I speak Portuguese, I speak Spanish, for those who want to know. I don't speak amazing Spanish, don't get me wrong, but I speak good Spanish. Enough to help someone if they need help getting somewhere. Not so much for me to get somewhere, but definitely for them to get somewhere. But as a friend of mine has pointed out on many occasions, we got apps that translate everything nowadays, so the parts that I lack in, I can make up for. I've always wanted to be a comic book artist, but like only in theory, not in actual, because it's a lot of work and a lot of patience, and you have to focus on one project. And I am a bit of a scatterbrain. So I started doing these little kind of weird drawing roster sketches for like a superhero-esque type wrestling organization thing. And so I've been playing with this idea. I have a sketchbook devoted specifically to this now. So I'm putting things together and I'm going forward. I thought about a hero of mine I met a very long time ago in art school, Paul Pope. And Paul Pope had very kind of simplistic artwork where he drew his own face a lot and for different people. And so that was kind of what gave me the nerve, the gall, the energy, the excitement to feel like I could draw these things, like I could be these things, I could do these things. Because like he just became very good at allowing himself to make people who looked like what he makes people look like. And I think that's part of the whole style thing. I think that's part of the whole kind of, I did this and I thought I was going to go insane. There's so many of these in here. But I wanted to see what I could do if I did these crazy ones. So this is technically the last page. But I did do something on the back of this, so I'll show you that also. But this is technically the last page. So I did this one. There you go. And then the last page. There was a lot of markings on it, so I was like, I'm not gonna just draw over this thing. It's crazy. Back up. Back up. And it'll go on my shelf, which is here now. Galeras. That's crazy. It's a little wild. It's a little wild. So, how's everyone doing? Bom dia. Oi, tudo bem? Que pasa? How are you? How goes it? I've just been kind of working and doing these things. I feel good. I'm just trying to figure out how exactly today is going to shake out. I'm realizing in my attempts at adulthood in my 40s that I need more backup plans. And I'm working on them. I really am. I've got my mural business. I've got my mural business that's expanding to a house painting type of thing. So we'll do the inside of rooms if you need, like accent walls and stuff like that. And I sell paintings still, obviously. So it's coming together. And I'm working on a film. I'm working on a long art film that I'm making. It's kind of like a documentary, but I feel good about it. It's a little wild. It's a little crazy. It's got a lot of film that I have to edit and go through, but I feel okay with it. I'm working on making plans to do more stuff with it. I just don't know. I'm letting it be a little more up in the air on what directions it's going to go. So, yeah, that's about it, honestly. This painting is going to be really interesting. I've got a lot I got to do with it, so I'm not guaranteeing when it'll be done. Which I think a lot of times with artists, we make artwork, and then we're under the impression we get trapped in this idea that like if I'm not documenting it while I'm making it for social media, then I'm not doing it right, which is silly. It's not true at all. We just have to kind of figure out the best way to make artwork in a suitable form that's sustainable for our own mental health. And that is difficult. That is very difficult. But I feel okay. I feel okay. You know? It is what it is. Ah. So now I just have to figure out, like I said, the rest of the day. What I'm gonna do. I'm probably gonna ride my bike around a little bit. I don't know that I'm going anywhere particular. I may just be doing it to get some exercise. And I might just ride to the park and then just ride around the park for a little while. It's not raining. Too bad. Which it may be. I can't really tell. I can't really tell. But yeah. I hope you have a good week. The show is pretty much over. Once I finish my food, the show is over. That's kind of how the show works. But yeah, thank you for everyone who joined me. I really appreciate and love you. You're incredible. If you get a chance, please subscribe to the channel. I'd love to get up to 500 subscribers this year. I think we're at like 422 right now, so we're not that far. But we just have to keep growing, and eventually we'll get to the point where we can monetize it at 1,000. But I don't want to be greedy, you know. I don't want to be greedy. I want to just kind of let it grow how it can at the speed that it does. I've had the channel for about 12 years. I took some time off in between. There's so many art videos and painting videos on this thing. It's crazy. They're really good, mind you, but it is a little wild how many I've done throughout the years. So there's over 1,000 art videos on this channel. So keep you busy for a long time. Yeah, I don't know. Oh, Patreon. We have a Patreon. Please join. You can join for free. You can pay a fee if you'd like, but you can join for free. I forward a lot of the free stuff on the thing through Post and etc. So those are fun, but it's an easy place to get all the information together. And then yeah, there's the $5 group that is all the making of art stuff, the photos, the 24 shots, which is just like a roll of film that I do every week. That's just all the art stuff that I'm working on, kind of like a tour of the life. There's both there. There's lots of art videos. There's art shorts. There's little kind of inside baseball type stuff, I guess, in a way. And it's just it's nice. So if you want, please support. Like I said, you can join for free if you want. Also, oh, we have a book club. We have a book club, so we're reading all this stuff together and having little discussions and etc. So think about it. Might be the greatest thing you ever seen. You never know. Um, yeah, and we can be more candid. We can have all types of kind of interesting little conversations, back and forths and whatnot that are easier to do there than they are to do here, so to speak. Um, but yeah, I hope you're well. I hope you have a good weekend. Love you much. Banner out. Ciao. Bye.